Hi, Alyssa.
Hey, Katie.
Welcome to episode number 292, Keeping a Transaction on Track. And today we are highly motivated by lunch.
We are motivated by lunch.
I said if we got this second episode recorded, we could eat lunch out of the house.
Yeah, she said I could leave.
Well,
She'll take me somewhere nice.
She wanted crunchy ice.
That's what I want today. I want crushed, crunchy ice.
So we're going to give you, this is going to be the most efficient episode ever.
Yeah.
We're going to tell you how to keep that transaction on track.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to get it pending. You know what one of my, cringy things is?
What?
When somebody's house goes pending.
And they post a sold.
And then they're like, we sold our house. And I'm like,
False.
Oh, no.
You're the furthest thing from sold you could be.
You're about to, go through
This is like the
trenches.
ringer.
Yes.
It's like I picture one of those obstacle courses where you have to, climb through mud and go under the rope and, climb the wall.
Yes. That's where you are now.
We're in American Ninja Warrior now.
Mhm,
It's
mhm.
like, good luck.
Yeah.
And truly, people, I think, have the misconception, agents and the public alike, that agents' job and biggest function and value is to find a house. I'm doing air quotes.
Mhm.
So, well, you didn't find me my house, so I really don't need you because I've got Zillow or whatever.
Yeah, I found my house on Zillow.
No. It's the part from contract to closing that you need me for.
Yeah.
You need me bad.
Yep.
And if you don't have me, you might not get that house that you found yourself.
Correct.
Let us go back to important episodes that are hand in hand with this. The client management episodes.
So good.
Okay, that's number 255 and number 24. My favorite philosophy and thing to talk about with agents prior to even the podcast existing was client management. Because you can tell when an agent has no control of their clients.
Oh, yeah.
And you cannot get a transaction to the closing table with clients that are out of control.
No. Mm-mm.
So go listen to those.
Yeah. Those will really dive deep because this would be way too long to go through all of that.
Yeah.
And those are so good.
And we're not also going through offers or getting under contract.
Nope.
No. There are episodes for that as well. This is just contract to close.
So I wanted to make note that one of the biggest differences between agents who can smoothly get it to the closing table and those who seem to say, every deal I have struggles. And look, sometimes
You can't
you're
help
in a
it.
season where that just happens.
Yeah.
But it's really those who are reactive versus proactive.
I would agree.
Once you receive an offer, there's things that need to be vetted and done. And I think so many agents are just so thrilled to have an offer in writing. Yeah. Do you know which email template has saved me more times than not?
Which one?
Offer received that goes to just the lender.
Just the lender.
And I copy and paste my template to the pre-approval letter that came with. And it says, hey, I just received an offer with a pre-approval letter from you. Look at you.
From you.
So I'm letting you know.
You're on the hook.
You're the one that has to really get us to the closing table. I have attached their contract and your pre-approval letter. I wanted to make sure that you feel comfortable with this close date, with this loan type. I also want to verify that this wasn't contingent on anything like selling a car, because I've had that happen before.
Oh my God.
That you feel good about credit, that you've reviewed all their documents. It's a very, very good email.
Okay, yeah, I agree.
Now, what else I like about it is it allows me to see how quickly they respond.
And how do they respond?
Believe it or not, I find that this email gets a very quick response.
Okay, love it.
And I have sent it to national lenders that I thought,
this
is going to be rough. But I'll tell you, as a listing agent, when they respond quickly, I'm delighted. I'm like, look, I don't know you. You're not local. You're a national person. You're a big bank, whatever you are. But you responded quickly and answered my questions.
That's all I need.
I can now go. And it's so nice to be able to tell your seller you did that.
Yeah.
You had one that was listed with another agent. Tell that story real fast. Hey there, are you looking for ways to save time and money in your business?
Email Templates 101 is the communication system you need to bring ease and efficiency to managing your transactions and clients.
Save time and avoid mistakes, all while providing a high level of service for your buyers and sellers.
In Email Templates 101, you'll get 13 downloadable buyer templates ready for your personal touches.
And 19 downloadable seller templates, plus 6 attachment checklists.
Head over to hustlehumblypodcast.com/courses to get yours today. Wait, tell me what you're thinking of.
Where they were pending for so long.
Oh, yes.
We shared it on Instagram.
Yes. Because they were pending. I took this listing as the second agent when it expired. It had been listed and did go under contract. And it was pending. And then it went back on the market after a whole month. And my clients, while it was pending, moved away to another state and left the home vacant because they thought it was closing.
Mm-hmm.
And then clearly just before closing, they found out that the buyer couldn't get their loan.
Mm-hmm.
And because the previous agent actually listed that in the description once it had to go back on the market, which then it didn't sell. And that's a whole nother different story.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up with the listing. But they went all of that time
with someone who was never going to get a loan.
Never.
You received an offer on one of your listings recently.
Yeah,
this week.
Yeah, this week. And the offer wasn't bad, but I went, as I do, and as you should, I read all the blanks. Some blanks were not filled out. Okay, fine, we'll figure that out. But the loan blanks said that this buyer was getting an RD loan, which is rural development. Now, in our area, if you're in the city limits of Baton Rouge, you're not eligible.
Right.
If you're outside of the city limits, you are, which y'all, obviously there's a line and you could think you're in or out and you're not.
Yes.
Okay?
But guess what? There's a map online where you plug in the address.
There is literally an online map on the USDA website where you as an agent can confirm this, which I as an agent did. Because I was like, ooh, I think I checked this when I take my listings to make sure I mark off the correct loan types in the MLS listing that would work for this house.
Mm-hmm.
RD wasn't marked off. So I definitely didn't say that was okay. So I check. I'm like, maybe I was crazy. Maybe it is in the outside of the city limits. It was honestly 2 blocks off, to be fair, but still it was.
All you have to do is plug it in and it says yes or no.
So I checked. And so I immediately asked the agent about it. And she said, oh, I don't know.
Mm-mm.
And then I called the lender and I'm like, hey, I just got an offer from your buyer. I didn't even send the email. I called the lender. And because before I sent it to my seller, I did this.
Yeah.
So I called the lender and I said, hey, is this house, it doesn't look to the map that I'm looking at. This house is not eligible for RD.
Mm-mm.
And she was like, oh, I don't know. I'll have to check. I can get back to you. And I'm like, are they able to get a different type of loan? If that is the case, that's what I need to know before I respond to this offer. And she said, I think they can work out, doing something else, whatever, FHA, who cares? She didn't tell me. And I was like, all right. She's like, I'll get back to you. Guess who never got back to me?
She was like, they can't buy a house.
She never got back to
This
me.
house?
The agent I followed up with later in the day, I'm like, hey, by the way, I didn't hear back. She's like, yeah, it's not RD.
Put it this way. All that agent had to do, she knows she had an RD buyer.
Yeah.
Every house has to be checked before you show it. When you know this is the only loan type the buyer qualifies for.
I'm not sure that she knew that. That's where.
This goes back.
Thank you.
Way before. I see.
It was not working out from the jump. And I was like, hey, she's like, oh, we're looking into it. I'll get back to you. And I'm like, all right, well, you have until noon tomorrow to respond to our counter. Because I'm like, we just went ahead and countered. Because there was a loan program that was 100% available specifically to that area for a conventional loan. And so I tell her about it. I tell her about the lender. And I just got this weird vibe that she wasn't going to pass that along.
Well, because she was like, oh, well, I have my own lenders.
Yeah, no. She's like, I've got like 20 lenders. I'm sure one of them can handle it.
And first of all, I know you want to send business to your quote unquote friends, but none of us have our own lenders.
Right.
The lenders are which lender is the best fit for this particular client, especially when you have a client with a very specific need.
Y'all, end of the story is I put it in the counter. just to make sure. I wanted to make sure the buyer knew that this loan program was available. If 100% was the only way they were going to buy this house, I needed to get that information across because I wasn't sure that their agent was going to tell them. So I just put it as an FYI in the counter. And then all of a sudden, next morning, guess what shows up? A rejection. Counter rejected. No counter to the counter.
No kind note?
No words at all.
Okay.
No message, no subject line,
I wonder
no
how
call.
many emails I've sent like that.
No message, no subject line, no call, no text, no
not
words,
that bad.
0 words. So, of course, I have to pick up the phone and call the agent. I'm like, hey, why are we just going straight to rejection? They couldn't get another loan. They don't want to talk to this other bank that can do 100%. Like, what's the story? Well, they didn't want to get their credit pulled again. I'm like, do they know?
That
and then we kind of went
matter.
down that road. And she's like, I tried to tell them. I'm like, did you? I don't know. Okay. And then, but guess who was the most angry?
Your seller.
Yeah. And she she was like, can I file a complaint against their agent? They should have never wrote this offer. I'm like, well, I agree that to be true. I don't know that you have any valid complaint here. And I just kind of like let her blow off some steam. But
yeah, it goes to show that so many people their goal is a contract.
Yeah.
But the problem solving happens in the proactive work before you ever write a contract.
Yeah, because I'd rather break my seller's heart on day 1 offer day than on day 10, day 14, day 30. Oh, by the by, they can't get their loan. Mm-hmm. That's going to hurt a lot more than us we never took it off the market.
Yeah.
So nothing, no harm, no foul for us as a listing.
And I do think when we get the contracts, especially if the price looks decent, we're pretty eager to call a seller quickly.
Yeah, we want it to work.
Guess what? This is the price they're willing to pay. If you would have just saw the price and skimmed and missed the fact that it was RD, you would have ended up with a cancellation on your hands. Yeah. And you would have had to go back on the market.
Which looks bad.
There's just so many things to check before you write an offer. For example, in our market, it used to be that most flood insurance policies were transferable.
Yeah.
Now, when you sell a house, it's become more rare that the seller is able to say, well, my flood insurance is only $700 a year, so you can have it. Mm-hmm. What they're paying doesn't really matter anymore because they're reassessing every new policy. So I've even started writing when I'm the listing agent, that buyers to have their homeowners and flood insurance solidified during the due diligence period.
Oh, yeah.
Because if they don't, they can use that as an out the week before closing.
Days before.
And say, oh, well, we've been shopping. We can't find insurance. Insurance is too high. Now my debt to income is too high and the loan's off. Approved.
And they haven't broken any contract rules.
In our market, that's how it works here. I know we know every state is different. But the financing contingency in our market is there till the end.
Right.
So it's really up to you as the agent on any contract you receive to vet the pre-approval letter. Does it have the right verbiage that you need?
Yeah.
How quickly does that mortgage lender respond? Before you run and show houses to the buyer and write contracts, are you making sure the loan that they need works for this house and all of those things?
Yeah, agreed. We talked a little bit in preparation about red flags because that's really what you're looking for. How do you catch things before it's too late? How do you find the obstacles that are coming and sidestep them? Maybe even without your seller or buyer realizing you're trying to make sure everything goes smoothly. Here's some red flags.
Okay.
Number 1, poorly written offer.
Yep.
If you're the listing agent and the offer comes with no loan type, blanks not filled in, things that can't be correct or true about the house that they're writing it about, you better figure that out early on. 2, the lender is unresponsive or uncommunicative.
Yes.
This is a huge red flag. If your buyer is of no priority to them and they will not return your call, text, email, whatever, you're in trouble. You're just on a wing and a prayer hoping that it will close. Ooh, I don't know about that. Another red flag. Buyer does not select their title company. And the title company is not involved somewhere in the just past inspection period. If you haven't heard from
you heard from title?
Is a file open?
Right.
Does the file exist? If it's not open, I don't believe that because they've got to do the abstract and the title work and get prepared for that too. Like it's not the day before closing sort of situation.
Yeah.
All right. And then the appraisal is not scheduled. Like,
right.
we've gone past the inspection period and it's like crickets. No appraisal. Then I know I'm being triggered. Like, hey, wait, something doesn't feel right. Why are we not at this point of the process?
Correct. Yeah, if you close this week and the appraiser hasn't gone, you're not closing this week.
Oh, I've had and the problem is the buyer's agents don't know, because you as the seller's agent are the one that's getting the request and knowing when the appraiser has gone.
Mm-hmm.
And poor communication from lenders means maybe that buyer's agent thinks it happened.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh, we're scheduling a walkthrough. We're scheduling closing. I'm like, I don't know how. No appraisal has happened. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
You don't want to be that one either.
I like to also use the end of the due diligence as a way to email title and the lender to say, even if they're not my buyer, I email title and lender and say, hey, everyone, I just wanted to let you know due diligence is over and we are proceeding.
Y'all, I'm not worried about stepping on the other agent's toes.
No.
Like, if they get upset because they feel like I've done something, I'm, first of all, never going to do anything that's illegal or inappropriate.
And you're not unethical. You're not rude.
I'm just going to be like, hey, and a lot of times the other agent is just thankful that someone is keeping it. They want to get to closing just as much as you do. That's how they get paid.
Why would anybody be upset or feel threatened that the other agent is trying to help get you to the closing table?
I think sometimes agents are like, oh, I don't want to make anyone mad. I don't want to do anything that's not, am I allowed to do that? I'm like, yeah, you're allowed to call the buyer's lender as the listing agent. They're not allowed to tell you every detail of their loan.
You don't get to know their credit score and income, but you get to know how things are going.
Where are we in the process? How many days until the next thing? Do you think this closing date is still viable? Those are absolutely questions that a lender can answer for you. And if they won't, we're back to the red flags. If they are saying, oh, I can't tell you any of that information.
I also, whether it's fully true or not, like to send an email once the appraisal is scheduled to say, hey, lender, we are at a point where they're scheduling movers. We do not want to move out unless this closes.
Yeah.
Do you see any reason that my sellers should wait on scheduling movers?
Do they respond to that?
Yes.
Yeah, I bet. They're like, ooh, yeah, I don't want to be that.
They don't, because they're on the hook.
Yeah, I don't want to be that guy.
Truly, they are on the hook. And so
pretty good.
It's sort of a reminder to them that, because the lenders, they don't get to meet our people all the time. They don't get to see the houses. Like, we're about to move away and empty a house on your word.
Yeah.
So I need to make sure you don't see anything.
We good?
Yeah.
Everything good?
It's just a good little reminder.
I like that one. Also, the lender is not necessarily aware when and if the appraiser went to the house.
Yes.
They have a date that the appraisal is due. But if the appraiser calls and sets an appointment and then doesn't show, you might need to alert the lender, hey, appointment hasn't happened. Appraiser hasn't come. I haven't seen the appraiser go by. Things fall through the cracks all the time. And the lender has to follow up and be like, oh, okay, we had to reassign it. Something happened to that appraiser, whatever. So y'all you cannot assume anything during the course of a transaction.
Nothing is assumed.
And you can't assume that someone else is following up and doing their job well.
Correct.
That's like, I want to do my job well, but I also want to make sure I'm gently checking in and all the other players are doing their job.
That's an excellent point. I know when we're podcasting, we can sound like I'm direct. I'm a direct person. And we are in charge of managing the transaction. I am, and so are you, always kind.
Yeah.
Helpful.
Right.
Like, this is what we need. If you are aggressive or rude or accusing,
oh, the appraiser hasn't come out yet.
Yes, like, we need to stay polite, because how you treat people is also a huge indicator of if you will make it to the closing table or not.
I would agree, because people can mess it up just because they're annoyed with you and your behavior. And I always say you get more flies with honey. So if you're like, hi, lender, I know it's been so busy lately. How are you holding up? Hey, I just wanted to let you know the appraiser came by, but it's been all a week. Is the report in yet? Are they supposed to get it to you? Oh, they'll be like, oh my gosh, you're right. It was supposed to be here. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Right.
Okay.
Stay on track, everyone.
Let's talk about how we're going to walk through this, keeping our transaction on track. You want to do these lists?
Sure.
Okay. So if any of you listen to the bonus episode with our friend Rihanna of Real Time App, we created our buyer and seller task list to be given as templates in the app. So if you sign up, you could choose the Hustle Humbly task list. You can also choose the real time standard list.
Yes.
But we have the ones that have our task that we do.
And you can edit them.
Yeah.
For your market.
For sure.
If things are different.
So why don't you talk us through, Alyssa? We'll do buyers and sellers and just kind of like hit you with the high points of what you need to maybe do to get that transaction moving. But tell them how they're separated out first.
So we did color code them. And, we have a listing one and we have a buyer one. And what I realized is some of the bigger chunks of checklist things to do happens before any real contracts are signed.
Especially on the listing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pre-listing, there is so much to do to prepare to get a house listed and compliant and the information there for a buyer. There's just so much to do to ensure that when you do get a contract, it goes smoothly and you're not being asked for 27 things that you should have already explained.
Yeah.
And with the buyer too, especially with the buyer agency, buyer consultations are so important. So on both checklists, you sort of start with this like pre-contract.
Yeah.
This is where we're at. Then we enter into, we have a contract signed, okay? And we're going into, let's start
just
with,
do buyers.
I'll just do the buyer
just
one.
Buyers, top to bottom.
So, pre-buyer, you're having your consultations.
Yes.
You're having your conversations, learning what they want. Then you start looking and you enter into pre-offer, which means we're house hunting.
Yeah.
This is where you need to check disclosures for red flags before showing houses, or check the loan type if your buyer is a specific loan type. Like there's a lot that once you have found the home, there are things that need to be done before you rush to write a contract.
Yes.
Then you move into the next phase, which is having an executed contract. You are entering your due diligence.
Yeah. Now this is where we're going to try to keep that transaction on track.
Yes.
We're getting on the track.
And there is a lot to do here. Okay. There is a lot to do here, and it is all pretty important. And then once due diligence is over, it enters into pre-closing.
Okay.
We are preparing for closing at this point. Have repairs been done? I will never forget a title attorney who I respect so much once said, she knows that they are not the best agents when at the closing table, they're asking about repairs.
Oh, repairs? That's worse.
Oh, she said it happens all the time. Yeah, like, did you ever get the AC serviced? Like nobody had receipts
or a walkthrough,
but they walk through and they don't know how to look at the AC and see if it was serviced necessarily. Like, where is the documentation? But she was like, the things that I hear discussed at closing tables will just make you so sad. So don't be that agent. We want our Hustle Humbly agents.
Yeah, and just because you got to the closing table doesn't mean you need them to also have a positive experience.
Yes, because post-closing on the post-closing transaction checklist, that is where you are setting yourself up for success for repeat and referral business.
Yeah.
That's where you're saying, how did I do? Are you pleased with my service? And if everything was good up until you sat down to sign papers and didn't have receipts and didn't have documentation, and you never told them to transfer utilities ahead of time.
You made it very unpleasant.
You went from doing a decent job to getting a bad review.
Yeah, you were at a 5-star and you dropped.
Yes. All at the closing
You were right
table.
at the finish line.
So at the finish line. Don't start slacking, just because you made it past inspections.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Do you want to walk through any of the executed contract tasks where you might need to keep it on track?
I think having your email templates going out at the right time during this are very important. Making sure that your buyer understands what their next steps are.
Yeah.
They must be told, probably in more than one way, where to bring the deposit check, what to do with that.
Yeah.
Start shopping homeowners insurance. Like there's things that they need to do, but it is our job to tell them.
Yeah.
And I also tell them, I like to tell my buyers, now that we're under contract, I know our lender is lovely. but you are going to hear from them a lot right now.
Right.
And it's going to feel frustrating, and it's going to feel like they are going to want your firstborn child next.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
That it's going to feel that way. It will get better.
Right.
And it's not the lender's fault.
No.
It's like the government's fault. This is what is required to get a
Must do
loan.
these things.
We have to go through underwriting.
Yeah.
And I think we're also not doing a great job explaining that enough.
No.
Because they don't realize every year there's new forms, new
Yeah.
documents. The loan packages are getting longer and longer. We need to prepare them that
Yeah.
it's going to be a lot during this time, but don't worry. I'm going to stay on you because I have my checklist, and I'm going to make sure you're doing everything
All
that
the
you need to
things.
do.
Yeah.
Also like discontinuing the new listing emails to go to the buyer.
Yeah.
Like at this time, they need to stop looking. We don't
The
want
easiest
cold
way to
feet.
get knocked off the track
Yeah.
is distracted by a totally different house.
Look at this house. That's pretty. Like,
No.
it's like, no, we are under contract now. Maybe they
This
can
is your
still
house.
come to you. The listings can still come to you in case something does fall through.
Yeah.
But your buyer doesn't need any more house emails during this emotional time.
No, definitely not.
So that was the most, important things, I think. Hey friend, we just wanted to pop over and remind you of all of the freebies that we have on our website at hustlehumblypodcast.com/resources.
There are quite a few on there. They work for buyers and sellers, for your business, all different things you might need, and all for free.
Mhm.
Alyssa, which one is your favorite?
My favorite freebie is the due diligence checklist.
Oh, that's a good one and so impactful for your buyers.
It's a great email template.
It's a really good one. My favorite is probably the staging checklist. I want my sellers to have those houses looking good.
Yes. So head over and see which ones you would like to download or get them all. Enjoy.
Getting all the inspections through, making sure that you meet deadlines here, I think is also important. You cannot keep a transaction on track and contractually good if you're not meeting deadlines.
Yeah, I mean, if you miss a deadline, there is an argument that you have defaulted the contract.
Especially your inspection, the end of your inspection period, you need to put that in your calendar, on a big giant note on your computer, wherever you need to put it, so that you remember this is the end. If I don't ask for repairs by this date, my buyer does not get to ask for repairs.
There are no repairs to be asked, and guess whose fault that is?
Yours.
Yeah.
Yours. Okay. Anything else? Utilities. Oh, keeping I guess we'll get that in sellers.
I get to more like after due diligence is over and we move into pre-closing. That's when we're making sure like appraisal is good. We need to think ahead to scheduling utilities, collecting any receipts and documentation for repairs that were done, making sure the house is ready for a final walkthrough.
Yeah.
I've had some issues lately where they're like, well, they're still moving out, but you can still go. And I shouldn't have.
Right, because it freaked out the buyer.
Yeah, like they're like, wow, it's so messy in here and so much is going on.
Yeah.
So just making sure that that's done. Always ask for the closing disclosure ahead of time. That was another thing our title attorney said was agents who don't look at the closing disclosure until the closing table. Like it goes out early. You need to review it.
And the way our checklist is set up is to ask for it 3 days ahead. So legally, the buyer's supposed to be getting it 3 days before closing. So it should be pretty easy for the title company to give it to you 3 days before closing.
Right.
It's not. And then you have to check it. The buyer does not necessarily know what they're looking at. And I will find that some title offices more than others will say, oh, I can't send you that because of, respitrid, whatever. And I'll be like, well, send me a settlement statement. There's something that you can send me that shows me the numbers. And sometimes they don't say that. They'll just send you the buyers, but the buyer side doesn't show. Was the seller paying some kind of closing cost or your commissions? You might not be able to check that on the buyer side.
Right.
So you need to get the other side as well. That's why I like that settlement statement better.
We did that episode on being a great co-op agent. And we interviewed the title attorneys, the lenders, other agents, home inspectors to say, What behavior do you like to see
Mhm.
in a realtor?
That's episode 129.
How do you know that?
I feeling like a genius because James made the notes and it was like a freebie for a hot second.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
it was episode 129.
Okay, well, yes. If you want more, that is an excellent episode to go
Mhm.
listen to.
Yeah,
Because that
agree.
one even resonated with me so much. Like,
Yeah.
when I am working with a new lender or a new title company or anything, just knowing what they need to make their lives easier.
Yeah, I know. And it's important that you know who is involved in your transaction and how to keep in touch with them. Do you not have, as the listing agent, you have to have the contact information for the buyer's lender?
Why don't you go over? Oh,
That's sellers. You want to do sellers? You want me to do sellers?
yeah, you can do sellers.
I'll do sellers. Okay.
Because that is it. That's in pre-listing. What if the house is a succession or is in a trust?
Right.
Do you have the paperwork documenting who can actually sign on behalf of this
Oh,
house?
look, as the listing agent, you better have asked,
That's your job.
is this all of the sellers?
Mhm.
Who has to sign?
Mhm.
You do not want a random sibling showing up halfway through and being like, I didn't sign off on any of this.
Mm-mm.
I didn't even say you could sell the house.
Mm-mm.
I don't want to sell the house.
That'd be
Ooh,
awful.
that's real bad. Okay, so we've received an offer on our listing. What are we going to do to keep this on track? First of all, you got to make sure you have all the pieces and parts filled out. Is your contract filled out? Are all of the signatures where they need to be? Did the lender get the contract?
Right. Very important.
I understand this is not necessarily your job as the listing agent, but I think you probably should check.
Mhm.
Like, does the lender have it? Also, I make sure, here's how I help stay on track. If we went back and forth on counters,
Mhm.
I try to
Yep.
make sure that the document I send back to the buyer's agent, and I'll try to send it directly to the lender, has final accepted counteroffer as the front page.
First page.
Of the same PDF document as the full purchase agreement, right?
Yes.
Because if you don't, I guarantee you you're going to run into this one day. The lender sends just the purchase agreement over to the appraiser. The appraiser sees the price of an original offer, not what's finally agreed upon on the counter.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, shockingly, your appraisal shows up for exactly the amount on the original purchase agreement.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, what?
What a coincidence.
They didn't even have the counter. And now you're fighting, and the appraiser kind of has to stand by there.
Yeah. They can't say.
Oh, I just did whatever it said.
Right.
So definitely want to do that. That's one way to stay on track.
Connie teaches us we can't counter counters.
Yeah, I don't like
It's
a counter
probably
to a
best
counter.
practice. Just keep it as clean as you can.
Yeah. And if you're going to counter counters, at the end, get a clean.
Yes.
Start again. Okay, let's see where else we can stay on track. Again, your email templates are very important here. Send it to your seller so they know what to expect. You do not want them calling you every day. This is what happens when the inspection happens. You're not supposed to be there. It's going to take a day to get the report. They don't have to send you the repair request until the end of their inspection period. This is what's happening. We need to keep everyone in the loop of what's happening. The deposit check, if there is one, did it go where it was supposed to go? I find lately
Who's
they've been
tracking
putting
that?
it. We're sending it to the title company, so I'm not getting it to my office. I need to find out that it actually went where it was supposed to go. Confirming the verification of the buyer's loan application.
Yeah.
If our purchase agreement has a slot where they put in a number of days that their lender will send you the intent to proceed on that loan. If they can't be switching lenders 2 days before, that's not how it works. But as the listing agent, you have to hold their feet to the fire on the terms of the contract.
Yes.
Okay. Inspections, obviously, you want to make sure they've done all their inspections within the right amount of time and that you've received the repairs at the right time.
This year, I have been getting some longer. So in our market for residential, a 10-day is
pretty normal.
Plenty. I've been getting 12, 15, 20. So I have been countering no.
Why do you think?
I don't know. And then they accept it. So I'm were you just
testing it?
I don't know.
But why?
Giving you more, because you can back out. In our market, you can back out during
any
that
reason.
time. So I want to keep it short and concise.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, the appraisal. Okay, here's a great way to keep it on track. When the appraisal is scheduled, contact the appraiser. Make sure they know all of the things that your seller has done to the house. Make sure they have your comps if you obviously should have pulled them. Make sure that they know how to get in the house. Make it as easy as possible for the appraiser to give you what you need, which is the amount on.
Yeah.
Make sure they have the freaking offer terms.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
That's in also if you're an email template user. That's
Also in the template. Yeah. Also in the template. Okay. Again, your sellers. Here's one where it gets off track. You had a terrible situation. The seller cannot turn off the utilities prior to closing.
Yeah.
If they turn in our contract, if they turn off the utilities prior to closing, there is really an out for a buyer because they have to do a final walkthrough with utilities on.
And if they can't, they don't have to close.
And y'all don't understand. If a contract expires with the closing date and something like that happens, the buyer is not required to grant an extension. No one is.
Right.
If like the seller didn't comply and it says in our contract that they will be on. So that's a huge one.
Yeah.
That's a really big one.
It's these little details
Yes.
that are so often overlooked because they're not a problem. But these are the things that are not a problem until it's a really big problem. And then you can't do anything to fix it.
Exactly. And that's the same thing with the inspection. The utilities have to be on. If the buyer has scheduled their inspection for the end of their inspection period, they show up and your seller doesn't have the utilities on, this is a big problem. This is a big problem. Okay. I think collecting your, repair receipts, you have to stay on your seller. You agreed to do these repairs. Where are the receipts?
Yeah.
Which is why it's so nice to get them to try and give a monetary allowance because then you can check that off your list.
Yeah. And there's no complaints at the final walkthrough about questioning how things were done.
Yeah, but you've got to remind the seller they have to get it done within a certain time, not the morning of closing. Our contract says 5 days before. We need the repairs to be done and have the receipts. And that's pretty much everything, making sure that I can remember early in my career where I called the agent to find out when they would be doing, this was pre-TRID, so you didn't have to do the 3 days before. I called to say, hey, when are you going to do that final walkthrough? And they're like, oh, well, the file just got to RD. So we won't be closing this week. And I'm like, come again?
And that's when RD was like weeks behind.
Many weeks. And my seller had to move in with a friend because her place where she was going wasn't ready yet. And she would have happily stayed in the house an extra 2 weeks. Happily.
Did it close?
It did. And then the agent, it was a whole debacle. She wanted to, there was a lot of mean text to me. I didn't do anything wrong for the record. Okay, so check on the walkthrough. Like, again, are all of the pieces of the puzzle falling into place?
Right.
Have you confirmed that these things are happening? You can't check too much.
Yeah.
You just can't. You cannot check too much. Check on your clients. Are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? Both sides, buyer or seller. And that's pretty much it to closing. Make sure that they show up to closing with what they need to bring to closing. Do you have a license? Is it expired?
Do you have garage clickers? Do you have a pool gate key? Do you have a HOA, anything? Like, what do you need to give these new people that are going to be living in your house now?
Because buyers will get feisty at closing and be like, well, I don't want to close without
all these
things, that, whatever you were supposed to bring. So very important.
I think I thrive in this space.
The admin part.
Like, I think the more you do it, the better you get.
Yeah, you're very efficient.
So it keeps me sharp.
Yes.
And so even making this checklist together was super helpful for me because I know I'm doing these things, but seeing it on paper, I'm like, this can't just exist in my brain.
How would you keep up with this is like 50 things?
I know.
This is 50 things you do for every transaction.
It is.
I would say 50.
I'm lucky that it's been in my brain so long without error.
I mean, right, you are lucky.
I've had a thing
for the record, if y'all have seen us flying these lovely checklists around, we are going to provide them to our friends who maybe don't necessarily get real time but want to have this list.
Yeah. More info later.
More to come.
Yeah.
But they will be available in some fashion. Anything else on red flags, keeping it on track?
I think this was a helpful reminder that we all need to slow down.
Yeah.
We need to be proactive.
Assume nothing.
Maybe assume the worst. I'm just kidding.
Prepare for the worst.
Prepare for the worst. Yes.
Yeah.
Expect the best.
Yeah. Prepare for the worst.
And then, but really, y'all, these episodes, the co-op agent, episode 129, client management 255, just hop over and listen to those and continue this conversation.
Helpful. Yeah. I would say it's kind of like a chess game. You're trying to look a few moves ahead.
Always.
Right? So like, what could go wrong? When I see a house, sometimes I'm like, oh, this is going to be a problem.
Yes.
Or at least I hope it won't be, but I need to know what to do if it is.
Correct.
Be prepared. Okay, that's really it. Toast?
Yeah, let's do a toast.
Okay.
Hi, this is Jenny McCaslin from Waco, Texas, and I am going to toast my new teammate, Bailey Gonzalez. She just joined our team, and I'm so excited to have her on board. She brings a wealth of knowledge on the Waco and whole Central Texas area, and I'm just so stoked to have her to bring on and collaborate with on our new home court realty team here in Waco, Texas.